You want to introduce it?
Oh, okay. Normally you always introduce everything.
Oh, yeah. You running this show tonight.
Oh, yeah. All right. That works. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Earle Sports Bet Show. This one is college baseball regionals edition. We'll be breaking down all of the regionals, what I like in them, maybe give out some futures of teams I like, because there's a couple of things that I do like going on. I already have some plays for Friday. They're rolling across the bottom if anybody's interested. I actually got to add one more play to it because I had a little Aura Bob. That's what it's going to be. If you guys are new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, share. If you guys have not been introduced to the world of college baseball, boy, is it fun. I will. Can I? You know what? I'll say it. I think that it's more entertaining to watch the regionals, super regionals, Omaha, than March Madness. I would say that this tournament style I think is better, in my opinion. But that's just me. But we do got 64 teams to talk about. I'll break down each one. I'll talk about each one. And we'll go from there. Nick, do you want to add anything before we start up?
College baseball is fun. It's definitely a fun time of year for the college baseballs. Trying to get all the odds up on the on the banners for these regionals.
Sounds good. We'll start off with probably one of the ones that's going to be the more lopsided. Now, these are not to win the group or not to win the regional because we don't have those odds yet. We've been looking around. They're not out yet. We'll probably end up getting those Thursday, most likely. And I will end up. I'll post out a Twitter post on all of that. So make sure you guys check out that. But we'll start off with the number one region, which is Wake Forest, Maryland, Northeastern, and George Mason. We'll talk about the number one overall team first, which was Wake Forest. They finished 47-10 this year, number one in the nation, number one in the RPI, which the RPI is just a ranking system in college baseball that kind of puts into a bunch of things into consideration in terms of strength of schedule and all that stuff. Wake Forest was by far the number one team in the nation. They are plus 400 to win it all. They were 22-7 in conference, which is a 759 win percentage, 29-3 at home, which in case you didn't know, regionals are in that team's home. So this will be played in Winston-Salem. They were 16-6 on the road and 2-1 on neutral sites. They played in the ACC. They won. They did not win the ACC tournament. They lost in the semifinals to Miami, who eventually lost to Clemson. But we'll talk about both of those guys later. Wake Forest, one of the best teams in the nation. They'll be going up against George Mason, who finished 34-25. They won their conference, which I believe they're A10. The A10 conference, correct? I don't remember.
Something along those lines.
They're one of the smaller conferences with Dayton. Yep. They are an A10 team. They won the A10, and that's how they got their berth. 34-25 this year, 13-10 in conference, a 15-11 home record, 14-11 away record, 5-3 neutral site. Overall, on the RPIs, they were 175th in the RPIs. The only reason why they got in was because they won their conference tournament. And you'll notice that with a bunch of these teams. So George Mason, I do not expect to do much in this tournament. They're going to kind of be the punching bag to Wake Forest the first game. The 2-3 matchup is actually quite interesting. I actually already have a play for it. The 3 seeds Northeastern, they were 44-14 this year, 20-10 in conference, 20-4 at home, 18-8 on the road, 6-2 on neutral site, and they won the Colonial. That's how they were able to get into the tournament. They were ranked for part of the year, and Northeastern, in terms of RPI, was 32nd in the RPI. Luckily, they won their conference, so they didn't have to worry about an at-large, because that would have probably been a problem if they had to worry about an at-large bid. So they're on actually, no, sorry, they lost their last game. They did get an at-large bid. They lost to UNCW in the championship. I forgot about that one. They still got an at-large. They were number 30-something in the RPI, so they were fine. They will be taking on the Terrapins of Maryland, who won the Big Ten. They finished 41-19 this year, 17-7 in conference, 18-9 on the road at home, 19-7 on the road, 4-3 on neutral site. And for this entire thing, I bet nothing in terms of to win regionals. I'm not going to touch any team because I think Wake Forest runs through these. I don't really see Maryland or Northeastern, which, hold on, sorry, I forgot to bring up this. Maryland was 37th in the RPI, so they were actually below Northeastern in the RPIs. I am not high on any of the teams besides Wake Forest. I don't think any team can beat Wake Forest in this regional. I'm going to, for the number 1 versus number 4 matchups, I'm going to parlay all of the overs. Because we've noticed it's been a trend in the past. All the number 1 seeds put up a shit ton of runs because they're against the bad teams. But Wake Forest should put up a bunch of runs. Now, in the Maryland Northeastern game, that one was close to a pick 'em. I did grab Northeastern. I think they're the better team. They have a good road record. Obviously, we see both Maryland and Northeastern have good road records. I'm just not as high on Maryland as I am on Northeastern. Northeastern could have won the Colonial, but they fell short on that one. I'll take Northeastern over Maryland in the first round. And I'll have the over in the Wake Forest game. Nick, did you have any plays in this?
No. Looking at Wake Forest, obviously they're the trendy pick to win the whole thing, and I understand why. They're the number 1 team in the nation. They were the best team. They were a little bit of a dark horse for me heading into the year, which I wish I grabbed preseason, which I was looking at like 20 or 25-1 with Wake Forest here. They've got a really good starting rotation. They're obviously the best team in baseball or in college baseball. I think they cruised through this rather easily. As for the Maryland Northeastern game, I'm actually going to grab where these lines if these lines have moved. This line opened up at minus 130, minus 125 for Maryland. It's now up to a minus 135, which suggests to me that maybe Maryland's the look in this spot here for me. I don't know if I'm going to get involved with this anything here. When we do get odds to win the regional, Wake Forest is probably a safe parlay piece at best. But
they're probably going to be minus $4 to win it.
Something along those lines. So nothing I'm particularly interested here in futures wise. Maryland Northeastern, I'm not really interested in that one. I am going to take all 16 1 seeds and throw them into a $5 parlay because all 16 won last year. So we're going to try to run that back this year. So
I'm in a hurry.
I'll have Wake Forest money line in my $5 parlay. But other than that, nothing.
There you go. We'll head over to this one, which I looked on FanDuel as well, and there is no odds for Bama to win the national championship. So, Other ones in the region are Boston College, Troy, and Nichols. Obviously, you see those really outlandish odds. We go and look. Alabama this year they were an RPI darling because they're freaking in the SEC. They were 40-19, so they did have a good record. They were 16-14 in conference. That's okay. They were 9-9 on the road, 27-8 at home, 4-2 on neutral fields. Their RPI, because they were such a darling, was 11. I'm not high on some of these SEC schools, and we'll see. We'll talk about why in a minute. There goes saying there's no hitter. Nichols State is who's going to go up against them, and they're going to get blasted. They did finish 34-22 this season, 15-9 in conference. They won 4 straight games to end the year. They were 19-8 at home, 11-11 on the road, 4-3 on neutral sites, and they defeated New Orleans in their conference in the Southland Conference tournament. In order to get into that, I'm not really expecting them to do much. We'll talk about them last because I have a lot to talk about them with. Boston College with the other team I bring up. They're 2 plus 20,000 to win it all. They finished 35-18, 16-14 conference record, 13-8 home record, 18-9 road record with a 4-1 neutral site. They even have a win against Tennessee this year on their resume, which is not an easy factor in there. But this is a team that we just saw them completely kind of bomb out in the ACC tournament. They beat Virginia Tech, which was very underwhelming this year, and then they lost to Clemson, which, I mean, we saw what Clemson did. We saw the run that Clemson's on right now, but that's just not something I would particularly want to go after. On the other one, the number 3, and we ended up grabbing them to win this. I'm going to end up grabbing them to win the region and to beat Boston College. I got Troy. This is going to be one of my dark horses. They finished 39-20 this year, 18-12 in conference, 20-8 at home, 14-9 on the road, 1-3 on neutral sites. They did not win their conference. They are in the Fun Belt. They lost in the Fun Belt to Southern Miss and App State. So, I mean, App State we saw went on a little bit of a run. They almost were able to try to get a spot into the championship game, but we didn't see that. But Troy is one of 4 teams in part of the Sun Belt, which has been a solid conference. I think this is going to be a good Troy team, and I will be riding them. They're going to be one of my teams, like how I liked UConn last year to make it out of their region. I like Troy to make it out of this one. I'm just not super high on some of these SEC schools that I feel only got in because they were only in the SEC, and that's what Alabama is. I'm going to grab Troy to make it out of this region. Nick, I kind of went over a bunch of stuff, but anything that you're going to be interested in this one?
Troy moneyline game 1 against it's Boston College. Troy did. You mentioned Troy did win. No, they were one of the last 4 ins. They were one
of the bubble teams.
Yep. So they've been playing baseball, like competitive baseball, for the last couple months, trying to squeak their way in. And I think that they are very live to pull off an upset here against a big Power 5 school in Boston College.
And Alabama.
And Alabama, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, this is a regional in Tuscaloosa.
Yes,
so Troy is also in Alabama.
Yep.
So this could be I'm not going to say it's a home game for Troy by any stretch of the imagination, but at least it's a close region. I think they got a really good draw. I think Troy got very lucky with their draw. I think Boston College had a good regular season. I don't think they're going to be a good postseason team. And I'm going to take Troy over Alabama. Whenever odds come out to win a region, Troy will be on my list.
I could see it. I'm personally not going to bet Troy to win the region. And that's probably, I mean, unless I get a decent enough price, if they give me $4.50, $5 for Troy, maybe I might think about it.
I'll take plus 300. Yeah.
I think it's going to be placed in the 275, 300 range. That's why I'm probably not going to be betting it. But if it's up in the $4.50, $5 range, sure, I'll take a small stab with Troy to win this regional, being a team that's a bubble team coming in. But honestly, I'm looking at Troy moneyline day 1. That's probably just about it for this region. And Alabama part of the moneyline parlay, but other than that, not really.
Troy was 38th in terms of RPI, so I figured I'd throw that one out there too.
Yeah, they were. They barely squeaked in. Sorry,
guys, this is random. Did you bet the Wings game? Yeah, I bet it over. Let's jump into this region, which I actually really like. This region.
Yeah, this is an interesting region. We have with Stanford, Texas A&M, CS Fullerton, and San Jose State.
Yep. Sorry, I was supposed to talk about them first. Stanford is the number 8 team in the country. They finished 38-16 this year, 23-7 in the Pac-12, 20-7 at home, 17-7 on the road, 1-2 in neutral sites. They did not win their conference tournament. They bombed out. They beat Cal, but who doesn't beat Cal? And then they lost to Oregon, who ended up winning the Pac-12, and then Arizona, which was a bubble team. We'll talk about them later on. Stanford was also the number 15. They were the 15th ranked RPI team, so RPI had them a little bit lower than the rankings did. It is what it is. Also in that conference or in that regional is San Jose State. They won their conference. They finished 31-25, 18-11 in their conference, 16-8 at home, 13-16 on the road, 2-1 on neutral sites. They won their conference against Air Force in the Mountain West. That was the only reason why they punched their ticket. San Jose State was 105th in the RPI. So they needed to win that conference tournament in order to get in. That's the only way they got in. I'm not super high on them. Fullerton, the Titans, finally made a postseason. They, of course, needed to win their conference as well in order to get in. They finished 31-22 this year, 20-10 in conference, 15-13 home record, 16-9 road record. Did they actually lose a game? Oh, they don't. Oh, they didn't show the conference tournament. It showed an L1. That was weird. But they did win their conference. They were one of the first teams to win their conference. So this was a Fullerton team. I'm not super high on them, and one of the reasons why is the team that they're going to have to face, which is the Aggies of Texas A&M. A&M made Omaha last year. They finished 36-25 this year, 14-16 in conference. That can look a little bit bad. They did start off really, really rough in conference, including losing to first week of the year they swept Seattle. Fine. They lost to Lamar and lost 2 out of 3 to Portland. They had a really rough stretch. They lost 2 out of 3 to LSU, got swept by Tennessee, and then they started to pick it up. A series win against Kentucky. They got swept against Arkansas. Won 2 out of 3 against Florida. But where they started to pick it up was the SEC tournament. A win over Tennessee. They lost to Arkansas, but luckily it's a double elimination where they beat South Carolina, LSU, and Arkansas again. And then they lost to Vanderbilt in the SEC finals or in the SEC championship game. This is a Texas A&M team that's gotten hot at the right time, which is a big, big factor to it. I like the Aggies in this region. I think they make it out of the Stanford region. Texas A&M was also 29th in the RPIs. So I do like – this is one of the few SEC schools I do like to come out of their conference or out of the regional. Whether or not I'm not taking them to win it all. I don't think they win it all. But I will be taking them. Actually, I don't know if I can take them. They're minus 165 against Fullerton in the first game. Maybe if they come out of a run line, I could take Texas A&M run line. But this is I like this Texas A&M team to make it out. Once again, I'm betting the over in every single 1 versus 4 match because there's going to be runs galore. So I like Texas A&M out of this regional though.
Yeah, I don't advocate for parlays, but I think this is a good one here. I think this region's very top heavy. I don't really think too much of Fullerton or San Jose State.
I agree.
I think Stanford absolutely cruises. I have both run lines written down if they become available in order to bet that. I'm looking at Stanford minus 1.5. I'm looking at A&M minus 1.5. And if that's not available, you can parlay the two together plus 124. I think that we're going to see Stanford and A&M playing for a trip for the regional finals. And I think one of those two make it out. I think Stanford edges out A&M out of the conference, out of this regional here. And if I can get a solid, here's the problem though with this conference, with this regional being so top heavy, I'm worried that Stanford's going to be a little bit too chalky in order to win the region because I do think they end up making it out of the region. I don't like the travel here for A&M, having to travel out to California. Granted, they're going to travel a few days before and all that fun jazz, but they're the only non-California team here between the 4 teams. So I think that's kind of interesting there. But I would look towards A&M and Stanford run lines game 1, and probably look towards Stanford to win the region.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not high on Stanford right now, so I'm not going to try to go after that. But good luck to you. Yo, Bryant's in the house.
If he wants to hop on, we can send him a link.
Yo, Brian, if you're interested in hopping on, I'll send you a link to talk some college baseball. We've run through three of the 16 so far, and we're 20 minutes in. But if you're interested, I'll send you the link real quick because I know you like your college baseball. But I'm super excited right now. This is the best college tournament there is. So I'm excited. But let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Oh, sounds good. All right. Then Brian will maybe be in a couple minutes. We'll go into talk about this one, and we'll run. Does Minnesota have a college baseball team? It's a good question.
I don't know. They're not in the tournament.
I don't think they do. No, I don't think they do. Sorry, Terry. You could root for ECU, though. We'll go into the next region, which is the Miami region, and I really like this region. Miami, Texas, ULL, and Maine are going to be your teams in this region. Miami, the number 1 seed, Texas, the number 2, ULL, the number 3, and Maine is the number 4. We'll go ahead and look at Miami first. They were quite solid this year. 40-19. They are the number 9 team in the nation. 18-12 in conference. 28-5 at home, which is huge in this. 9-13 on the road. 3-1 on neutral sites. Their last game was a loss in the ACC championship game to none only than Clemson. Although Miami's normally a pretty solid team in the regular season, they have problems when it comes to regionals. We look back at last year's regional; they hosted their own. They got knocked out by the eventual champions, Ole Miss. But Miami, solid squad this year. I really do like the rotation. They're going up against Maine in the first round, which is 32-19 this year, 19-5 in conference. They won 7 straight games to end the year, 14-3 at home, 13-12 on the road, 5-4 on neutral sites. They end up winning the American East tournament this year. They beat UMass Lowell, UMBC, and then Binghamton in the finals in order to clinch their spot in. They're not going to do anything. This is not one of the 4 seeds that I like. So this one ends up being a pass on that. The other matchup is Texas and Louisiana Lafayette. Texas this year was 38-20, 15-9 in conference. They lost 2 straight games to end the year. They were 28-8 at home, 10-7 on the road, 0-5 on neutral fields, including they had a really rough beginning to the year, losing to Arkansas, Mizzou, and Vanderbilt. In the Big 12 tournament, they lost to Kansas and then Kansas State and were knocked out. In terms of the RPIs, they're sitting at 28th. Miami was sitting at 12th. And Maine, don't even worry about them. They're way far down. Now, here's the team that I like from this conference, from this regional. And that's going to be the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette. They're a bubble team. They were a bubble team that barely made it in, but they made it in with their Sun Belt play in the tournament. They finished 40-22, solid squad. 18-12 in conference, 24-9 at home, 12-10 on the road, 4-3 on neutral sites. In the Sun Belt tournament, they went and beat Texas State, lost to Coastal, beat Texas State again, beat Coastal again, and then they lost in the championship game to Southern Miss. That's no pushover. I already have UL Lafayette beating Texas in the first matchup, and I will have the over in the Miami game because the 1 seeds always seem to put up a shit ton of runs on the 4 seeds. So when it comes to it, I like Louisiana Lafayette to make it out of this region in general. I'm going to take a little bit of plus money with that one, whatever it comes out to be. They'll be one of the teams I like to make it out. Nick, before we jump into you, we have Mr. Bryant joining us for some college baseball, and I'm excited that we got you on because in a couple of regionals we're gonna have a little bit of beef, and that's gonna be fun. But Nick, real quick, and then we'll let Brian tag on the 4 regions that we started off with. But Nick, Miami region, what do you like it?
I think you're on crack with Louisiana Lafayette here. I'm not interested in them at all. I'm on tech. I'm going to be on the Texas run line. Honestly, I have Texas making it out of this region. I think it tells you everything you need to know that Texas has the same odds to win the whole thing as the team that's hosting the regional in Miami. I have no faith in Miami. Miami is a team I'll look to fade. They're probably one of the ones. I'm probably not for this 1-4 matchup, but I think they're done in 3 games. I think they lose to Texas in their second game, and they probably lose to Lafayette in their third game, or they probably beat Lafayette and lose to Texas in the regional finals. But I'm going to be taking Texas to win the region, and I'm going to be on Texas run line here against Louisiana Lafayette most likely in that first game.
Man, I always love to hear when people say I'm on crack for liking something. Love to hear it. Brian, we'll let you start on this one, and then we'll let you talk over a couple other regions that we went over first. Miami, Texas, Louisiana, Lafayette, and Maine. What are you thinking for this regional?
I'm going to keep it simple with this. I'm not too high on Texas. Obviously, I watch a lot of Big 12 baseball, primarily for the most part. But I'm not super duper high on Texas, but I think they get out of it. I think Miami gets out of it as well. I will say I can see Louisiana Lafayette pulling off a scare for someone. I don't know who yet, but I think that there might be value in one of those spots to pick them to nab someone. But ultimately, I think Miami and Texas handle business. It's pretty chalky regional. It's just not really one of the ones that has that third like dark horse team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Miami and Texas get it done. Probably 2-1 or 2-0, 2 whatever it is. I think if
only one of these teams make it out though.
Huh?
Only one of the teams make it out.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that like I think that if you're going to go betting wise, I think that you just got to lay the chalk with Miami or Texas and just let it fall where they may.
Sorry. By the way, those are odds to win the entire thing. Those aren't odds to win.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Those are odds to win the entire thing.
I was like, wait, what?
I was like,
huh, that's a pretty nice odd to get out of a regional, but that makes sense. Yeah, so if I'm gonna give a fair answer, I got Miami. I just trust a little bit of the ACC a little bit more baseball wise this year than I do the Big 12. And this just isn't a quote unquote vintage Texas team. So yeah, I'm gonna rock out with Miami to get out of this alive.
There you go. Dave coming in. Is this the WNBA show? No, college baseball.
Obviously.
Brian, we'll let you talk over these real quick. Wake Forest region. Do you see anybody upsetting Wake Forest?
No. We talked about it briefly when the brackets were announced. Wake Forest is a very chalky pick to win the tournament, but like literally they have like 4 guys that are going to probably be in the MLB in like less than like 3 or 4 years, pitching wise. So it's just hard, man. Like I don't see it. I've got a kind of a soft spot for Wake Forest. There's a kid that plays for them that played with a cousin of mine. He's pretty decent. He's a sophomore, so he'll see his shine in the next couple of years. But I think Wake just cruises to the region to the next round. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, I don't know who can. I think Northeastern will give Wake Forest the bigger scare, but I don't really see Wake Forest struggling in this region at all.
I want to give a shout out to Northeastern because they gave me the scare of a lifetime. A couple of days back, I bet on the Northeastern UNCW game in the NCAA tournament, and Northeastern was up like 4-0. Game got postponed or game got suspended because of rain, and then UNCW came back and won 5-4. So I appreciate them. They're a pretty tough team now. Watch the game.
They got in on an at-large bid.
Yeah. I don't see them beating Wake Forest though, which is the big giant in the room. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. We don't have any odds on Alabama. I don't know. It's weird. That's the only team we don't have odds for to win it all. Alabama, Boston College, Troy, Nicholls State. Any thoughts on this one? Because I know Alabama, I think it's just a little bit overrated, but
they are. But I mean, look at the regional they're in.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think if someone's gonna do it, I'd honestly take a long shot on Troy.
Yes. Already on them.
I feel like this is one you got. There's always some one random like group of 5 school conference that goes on at least until like the super regionals or whatever the case may be.
Last year was UConn.
Yeah, exactly. Someone is going to do it. It happens every year. Southern Miss last year, they made some noise as well.
Ole Miss.
Yeah. It was Ole Miss.
Sorry. Southern Miss made it to Supers. Yes.
Yeah, they made it to Supers.
Dallas Baptist did it a few years ago too, as well. Like
and you get good value. They were like plus 190, plus 200. I think if anyone was going to do it, it's going to be Troy. So I would maybe take a flyer on them sometime this week just to see what's up with it. But I think Alabama does sneak by. And I do mean they probably do sneak by. I don't think that they just win this running away, but we'll see how it goes.
There you go. And then we also talked about this one: Stanford, Texas A&M, Fullerton, and San Jose State. Do you think Stanford runs away, or do we got to upset possibly with the Aggies?
I'm gonna raise you even more further. I am gonna go with Cal State Fullerton.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
All right, elaborate.
I have had Fullerton has a really good baseball program, always notoriously pretty good. Yep. I think I'm going to take a flyer on them simply just because I don't believe that A&M is going to sit there and I don't believe A&M is going to get out of it. I think the grind of the SEC is going to wear on them, and I think it shows here. And I also made a bet with someone that some random Pac-12 school was going to make it to the College World Series. It's got to be Stanford.
Doesn't have to be. There's
Oregon
and Arizona.
It could be Arizona, but I think it's going to be Stanford. But for my betting purposes, because I want to see a little chaos, I want Cal State Fullerton to win it, and that's what I'm going to run with. So I'm going to blind bet them this regional and see what's up.
I'm already on Aggies, but okay. All right, that's fair. We'll go ahead and head to this conference. We have not talked about this one yet, and those odds are weird. They're not weird. It makes sense. It's the power of the SEC logo. We get the region of Clemson, Tennessee, Charlotte, and Lipscomb. Clemson coming into this one, not the favorite to win the region in their own region. And I'm going to be all over them. They came into this one 43-17. Lindor solo shot, 1-0 Mets.
Yes.
They finished 20-10 in the ACC, and they're on a 15-game winning streak coming into regionals, including winning the ACC. They took care of teams in that tournament, such as, I believe it was, let's see if I could scroll down enough. Here, Virginia Tech, Boston College, UNC, and then Miami in the championship game. Clemson just looked like an absolute solid team. They kind of remind me of ECU from last year. Had a really, really rough beginning to the year, and then came back and had an absolutely massive year. And now they're number 4 in the nation and hosting their own regional. Now I think they kind of got screwed. Although I do have Clemson. I gave them out about a month and a half ago, or not a month and a half ago, but a little while ago. I had 150-1 when they're unranked to win it all. We gotta throw that one out. Now they're 2,500. Number 2 seed is Tennessee, which is not the juggernaut from last year, although they're still a very solid squad. They finished 38-19 this year, 16-14 in conference play, 33-5 at home. Unfortunately for them, they're not at home. They're on the road where they went 4-12. Only 16 road games. Jesus. 1-2 on neutral. Logo. Yeah, power of the SEC logo. This is a Tennessee team that you can never underestimate. They always have a shot to pull it out. We'll talk about the other teams, and then I'll tell you why Clemson's going to end up winning the region. Charlotte coming out of their conference, they went 34-26, 17-12 in conference, 19-12 at home, 10-13 on the road, 5-1 on the neutral site. They came out of Conference USA. They won their conference, even though they lost their first game to Louisiana Tech, came back and rattled off wins against UTSA, Louisiana Tech, MTSU, and Dallas Baptist. which was a big upset. I had them in the championship game at plus 145, so that was kind of sweet. Charlotte on a little bit of a hot streak, W5 coming into this one. Unfortunately, they have to run into Tennessee, and I don't really see them doing anything against Tennessee. And the last team that we'll talk about, and obviously you see the same odds, is Lipscomb. they're the same odds as Charlotte to win it all. Lipscomb finished 36-24 this year, 23-7 in conference, 18-7 at home, 14-15 on the road, 4-2 on neutral sites. Lipscomb did play against Tennessee. They lost 10-0. So that was not fun during the beginning of the year. In the ASUN tournament, apparently ASUN was a triple elimination because they lost to Liberty and they lost to Florida Gulf Coast, then rattled off wins against Jacksonville, Liberty, and Florida Gulf Coast to win the conference. So congratulations to them on making it out of the ASUN. You guys get to be Clemson and then Charlotte's punching bag, and then you guys get to go home. I like Clemson out of this one. I'm going to ride the hot hand. This is a team that's won 15 games in a row, ACC champs. And the fact that they're not favored over Tennessee is crazy. I'll grab the extra value there. I'll grab Clemson to make it out of this region. And if I can get plus money, that's even better to make it out of their own region when they're hosting. Brian, I'll let you go first, and then I'll let Nick go. Clemson, Tennessee, Charlotte, Lipscomb. Go ahead.
Yeah. I won. This region is kind of hilarious because like they have you got 4 teams who've all played each other in some capacity. Not everyone, but you've got so obviously you got the Lipscomb, Tennessee played each other. Charlotte played Clemson this year as well. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic. I will say this, and again, I'm not saying they're going to win this. They're not going to win this. Win this region. Lipscomb hits a shit ton of home runs. They were like 14th or 16th nationally in home runs, hit over 100 of them. That plays, man, in a tournament setting like that, because you can get hot for a game and hit a couple. I don't know if that amounts to anything, but I'm saying that I think that if anything, you look at some overs.
Well, it's a 1 versus 4. I'm going to take the overs and all those.
Overs might be the wave already on that. Ultimately, my pick for this region, I'm going with Tennessee. Mostly because I want to believe in the Clemson hype, but I feel like Tennessee's going to come in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Chase Dollander, he's there still. The only thing I think that really is kind of questionable is their offense is very spotty. I remember watching a couple, they're checking in on series and stuff like that, and they would go like a weekend and only score like 8 runs across 3 games. That's not going to cut it.
Was that earlier in the year or later in the year?
Earlier in the year.
I think it's a tale of 2 different.
Yeah. And so I think they've gotten a little bit better. But ultimately, I think I like the depth and the pitching on the Tennessee team more than anything else in this region. I think they're like 4th or 5th nationally, or 6th nationally. I can't remember. They're top 10 though in team ERA. I'm gonna rock out with them and just kind of see what happens. But I would not be surprised if Clemson pulls it out. They are the home team. They are the host team in this regional. So you have that luxury of, going down and, even if you lose a game and, you sit there and have to fight your way back out, you're doing it in your home, in your home stadium. So you'll have the home field advantage in that regards. But for my personal preference, I'm going to hop on the Volunteers to get out of this.
Nick, Clemson, Tennessee, Charlotte, Lipscomb. Don't tell me Lipscomb to win it all.
Yeah, Lipscomb to win the whole goddamn thing. They're going to hit enough home runs to win the whole thing. No. This regional pisses me off because heading into the college playoffs here, Clemson was one of those teams I have circled to win the whole thing. I have them, and then 3 others coming down the line here. I like Clemson to ride the hot hand, similar to what we saw with Ole Miss last year, where they were a team that came in, or actually you mentioned they were like East Carolina last year, where they ran the table at the end of the year, ran through their conference tournament, and went on and I think can win this regional. The fact that they are not the favorites, or the fact that they're not the best odds to win the tournament out of this group scares the shit out of me. But it also tells me I'm probably going to get plus money on Clemson to win this thing. And I think that's probably not a bad bet, grabbing Clemson plus money. Both Clemson and Tennessee are juiced beyond belief for their opening matchup. Clemson's minus 320 against Lipscomb, and Tennessee's minus 260 against Charlotte. Even if you want to parlay the two, it's only minus 122. So I don't know how much value you're going to get with parlaying them as well, because unless they offer run lines, which run lines will be expensive, or it'll be a minus 2.5 on Clemson. I'll lay some runs with Clemson against Lipscomb. I think they run them out of the building. So that's probably what I'll look for, is maybe a Clemson minus 2.5 against Lipscomb is kind of where I'll go with this. And then Clemson or Tennessee maybe laying a minus 1.5 as well.
There you go. 40 minutes into the stream, and we've gotten through 5 regions. Let's get it. Well, we got a bunch more to talk about. This is the Auburn region. Auburn, Southern Miss, Samford, and Penn. This is a very top-heavy region. I really don't want to even jump into Penn and Samford, although I will. Auburn will start off with, they finished the season 34-21-1. I'm trying to figure out where they tied. They tied against USC, and that was on a weekend series, and they weren't going to go back out there. So they finished there. 17-13 in conference, 23-9-1 at home, 8-10 on the road, 3-2 in a neutral site. They did not play well in their conference tournament, where they beat Missouri, then lost to Vanderbilt and lost to Alabama. So not good. Oh, I mean, they lost to decent teams, but although this is an Auburn team that made Omaha last year, so we can't take that one away from them. Although this is a little bit of a this is another one of those SEC teams that I'm not super high on. I was high on them early in the year because I gave them out like 30-1 or something to win it all. But this is a Auburn team that I'm kind of going to stay away from now. The other big team in this one, Southern Miss, which I feel they got gypped out of hosting a regional. Although if they won their conference. No, sorry, they did win their conference. I'm surprised they didn't host a regional. Them and Campbell, but that's not the point. They were 41-17 this year, 22-8 in conference, 26-5 at home, 11-10 on the road, 4-2 on neutral sites. And you look at the Sun Belt tournament, they played against James Madison, Troy. They won against both those teams. They lost to App State, then came back, beat App State, and beat Louisiana in the finals to win the Sun Belt. This is a Southern Miss team that I'm probably going to take to win this region. I think they're a very, very solid team. The other two teams, obviously, you could tell they're not high on Samford. They finished, even though they're a number 3 team in this region, they finished 36-23, 15-6 in conference, 21-5 at home, 11-17 on the road, 4-1 on neutral sites. And they went into their SoCon region. They won the SoCon. That's the only reason why they got in. They beat ETSU, lost to Wofford, won against UNCG, and then swept Wofford in the SoCon championship to reach this point. I'm not super high on them, although Southern Miss is way too juiced in order to grab them in the first game. And then Penn came out of the Ivy League. It's the first time that they've made the tournament, I think since 1993. 32-14 this year, 16-5 in conference. They won 8 straight games to end the year, 15-5 at home, 17-9 on the road. They did not play any neutral site games. And in the Ivy League tournament, they went and beat Columbia, Hartford, and Princeton in order to reach this. Don't worry about this team. They're not doing anything. Neither is Samford. I like Southern Miss to get out of this region. The only reason Auburn got to host one, by the way, Auburn, the only team to host a regional and be outside the top 16 RPI. They replaced Campbell. They did not give one to Campbell, which we'll talk about them later. I think that's going to be a pissed off team. But I don't like Auburn in this region. I like Southern Miss to make it out of it, and you're going to get some nice plus money for them to do so. Nick, Auburn, Southern Miss, and 2 other teams. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I'm on the similar page with Southern Miss in this spot here, and I think Auburn definitely is the most undeserving host. I'm low-key pissed that this isn't the Lillington Regional. Campbell should be hosting one, not Auburn. If they're going to follow the RPI the way they did with Kentucky and South Carolina, who are not ranked, they can give it to Campbell. but that's beyond the point. I think Southern Miss is definitely has some value to it here. And you'll probably get a decent price for them to win the regional, considering they're 75-1 to win the whole thing compared to 40-1 for Auburn. So you'll probably get a nice, probably close to $2 price tag with Southern Miss here. And I think they're one of the better non-Power 5 schools in the conference. This team was ranked for a while. This team was a bubble team to host the
Southern
regional
Miss
as
finished
well.
the year ranked. Southern Miss
they finished the year ranked. They were a bubble team to host the regional. I think they can make it out of it here. I think the value play is Southern Miss. Can Auburn win it? Absolutely, they can. But I think there'll probably be value-wise more value on Southern Miss to take this regional down rather than Auburn.
There you go. Bryant, Auburn, Southern Miss, and two obsolete teams. You're muted. You're still muted.
My bad.
There you go.
I agree definitely on Southern Miss. I referenced earlier last year they brought the Thunder into that into Supers. I think that they do it again this year as well. Auburn has Bryson Ware, I think his name is. He has like 24 home runs. Good talent, very good talent. I just don't see it being enough though to kind of mitigate a lot of the inconsistencies that Auburn has been. They come into the tournament losing 2 games anyway. And on top of that, they probably didn't deserve, like you said, they probably didn't deserve to host the regional regardless. You have a
SEC privilege. It's SEC.
Yeah,
privilege.
you have a target on your back, a big target on your back right now. And so I think Southern Miss, having been there last year, obviously they're not a team that sends a lot of guys to the they didn't have a crap ton of guys that went to the MLB draft. So they got a lot of guys that played last year that are back this year. I think it plays, and I think they go out and get it done and push on to the Super Regionals.
There you go. I'm still waiting on the lines to come out for teams to win regions. Southern Miss will be one of them. We'll head to this one, which is one of your favorites to win the entire thing, is the LSU region. LSU, Oregon State, Sam Houston, and the Tulane Green Wave are your 4 in this region. We'll start off with LSU, who finished 5th in the nation, 43-15 overall, 19-10 in conference, 28-7 at home, 12-5 on the road, 3-3 on neutral site. This is an LSU team that was sitting number 1 in the nation for a while. And then they kind of struggled down the stretch. They even struggled in their conference tournament, where I'm pulling it up. Let's find out what they did. That was their last series of the year. They won against South Carolina, lost against Arkansas, lost against Texas A&M, and that was it. So they're coming into this one with not a lot of momentum. But still, this is a really, really good LSU team. They're going to have a bunch of guys entering the draft. I saw like a mock draft, and they had like 3 or 4 guys in the first round. So this is going to be a good LSU team. So that's definitely going to be the force to be reckoned with. Oregon State, 39-18 this year, 18-12 in conference, 23-6 at home, 12-9 on the road, 4-3 on the neutral site. They got in. They did not win the Pac-12. They actually bombed out of the Pac-12 tournament, losing to Arizona and Arizona State. They made it in because they were one of the higher ranking teams in the RPIs. They were sitting at 37th. So they got in because a couple of bubble teams, non-bubble teams lost conference final games, and they were able to get in. They were a bubble team. Sam Houston. Do not sleep on Sam Houston. 38-23 this year, 22-8 in conference, 17-11 at home, 14-11 on the road, 7-1 on neutral sites. They played a pretty difficult out-of-conference schedule. They had some good teams. They had A&M in their thing. They won against A&M. They had a couple of solid spots. They went into their WAC conference champion tournament. They won against Abilene Christian, lost to Utah Valley, then came back, beat Abilene Christian, beat Grand Canyon, and then swept Utah Valley to make it into it. I personally already have Sam Houston plus 130 to win the first round for their first game. So be careful. This is a Sam Houston team that could be a little bit of a dark horse, could give LSU a fight in this region. I think Sam Houston might give them a little bit more of a fight than Oregon State. So be careful. It's not in-state rivalry, but it's a Texas team, and never take those for granted. And then Tulane. What can we say about Tulane? They are the worst team to ever make the NCAA tournament. 21 games under 500, 19 and
record-wise.
40. To be fair, in the beginning of the year, they had the seventh toughest out of conference strength of schedule. They played against Fullerton. They played against UCLA when they were solid. They played against USC, which was a bubble team. 2 games against Campbell. They played against Washington. They played against ULL. They played against LSU. They played against Southern Miss twice. This is a team that's played a tough schedule, and things didn't really come around until the conference tournament where they played in the AAC. They beat Houston in the first round. They beat Memphis in the second round. Not only did they beat Memphis, they run-ruled Memphis 12-2. Then they went and faced Houston again. They lost to them the first game, won to them the second game, and then we all know the ugliness that happened where they beat East Carolina in the conference finals 8-6 to punch their ticket. They are the worst team ever to make it. If you missed it, going across the scroller, I believe it's one of the middle ones I got. I have Tulane plus 375 as a little bit of an upset against LSU. I think they're going to give them a run for their money. Tulane going into this one hot. It's an in-state rivalry. I always love taking the smaller schools in in-state rivalries. LSU might overlook them. LSU coming into this one struggling. Tulane, we saw what they did. I'm going to take a little bit of a shot. That's one of the 4 seeds that I grabbed to win their opening match. I do think LSU probably makes it out. Be careful. I think Sam Houston can give them a fight, though. Nick, LSU, Oregon State, Sam Houston, Tulane. Tell me I'm on crack.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any of the 2, 3, or 4 seeds here. I think LSU, this is very similar to the Wake Forest region where I think they just have their way through this one. Oregon State does not scare me, and neither does Sam Houston State. Maybe Sam Houston State pulls off the upset against Oregon State game 1. Don't have to look a little bit deeper into that one there, but the only way I can look is LSU, which is going to be chalked to all hell, so I have no interest in that. Maybe if LSU is probably that favorite, that if I had to bet a favorite, it'd be them. But I have no interest in really betting anything in this regional because there's just no value here. I think LSU cruises. I'll probably lay whatever I have to with LSU against Tulane, whether that's a 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 runs. I think that's a game where they win 13-2, something along those lines against Tulane. I think they beat the brakes off of them, or maybe look towards an over in that game. Other than that, I really don't have too much interest in this region. LSU cruises in this one.
Brian, do you have anything else? Anything different from what Nick said, or are you gonna on the boat with the smaller seeds in this one, Sam Houston, Tulane?
Nah, I'm hopping. I'm with Nick on this, man. I really love watching LSU play baseball. I just don't think that they, by way of who they are and what they've done this year and the names in there, they got the smoothest, easiest regional to make sure that they can move on to the next round. And we can, and ESPN can maximize having 2 top 10 draft picks basically front and center during the rest of this tournament. So I don't see anything of value with the rest of the field here. It's LSU or bust. I'd like Nick said, I probably not even going to play it in actually sides because there's just no value. I think the only side you would play is like the Sam Houston, like Tulane game, or Sam Houston, or whoever plays Oregon State as well. That's not LSU. But other than that, that's it. I think LSU just cruises and we move on and worry about tougher competition in the super regionals.
I do think that there is one other team that had a little bit of an easier regional, and we'll get into them later. But no, this is definitely. I think a lot of people might sleep on Sam Houston, though, so be careful. This one's going to be a regional that is going to be fun. Another SEC school that I don't believe deserve to host a regional, but because of the magical SEC logo, they get to host. And that's Kentucky. They're with West Virginia, Indiana, and Ball State. I've seen one of these teams live this year, and that was Indiana. And I got to watch them get the shit beaten out of them by ECU. But that's not the point. Kentucky this year, 36-18, 16-14 in conference, 25-6 at home, 11-11 on the road, and 0-1 on neutral site. Once again, they only got to host the regional because their strength of schedule in the SEC. And the committee being way too high in the SEC. I'm not interested in them at all to win the thing. That's why we'll move on to the other teams, which is West Virginia, 39-18. 39-18 this year, 15-9 in conference, 18-6 at home, 19-10 on the road, 2-2 on neutral sites. This was a West Virginia team that was number 6 at one point late in the year, and then they went into Texas and got whooped, and then they went into the Big 12 tournament and got whooped. Not whooped, but they lost 6-2 and 3-2 to Texas Tech and Oklahoma State in their conference in their conference tournament. This is a West Virginia team on the downcline. They have no momentum coming into this one, which is why I'm going to end up grabbing this next team to beat West Virginia and win the regional, and that's going to be Indiana. Indiana was 41-18 this year, 16-8 in conference, 26-4 at home, 13-11 on the road, 2-3 on the neutral site. Unfortunately, they did lose 2 out of 3 of their conference games. They beat Illinois, lost to Iowa. Iowa's in the tournament, not a bad loss, and then they lost to Michigan. Not really a good loss there. But I do like Indiana to come out of this region. I will quickly bring up Ball Sac State, 36-21 this year, 19-11 in conference, 13-6 at home, 16-14 on the road, 7-1 on neutral sites. And the one big thing that they are going to be known for is in the MAC championship game. I don't know if anybody saw it. In the final game, bottom of the 9th, and a walk-off grand slam for Ball State sent them to the NCAA tournament against Kent State. They had 2 wins against Kent State, 1 win against Central Michigan. That was the highlight of their season. I see them losing to Kentucky. I see them then losing to West Virginia. I'm not particularly high on Ball State. I like Indiana to make it out of the region. I will be grabbing them. That's one of the teams I will be grabbing to win their regional. I'm not high on Kentucky at all, and West Virginia is going the wrong way. So Indiana to win the region. Brian, I'll let you go first with this one. Thoughts on this region? If I had $1 for every time you tried to talk while muted, I would
read it again. Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in Indiana. I'm rocking with it. I'm rocking with you guys on this. I don't really see Kentucky as a threat at all. I didn't see it. I did watch a Kentucky Florida series this year, and I didn't see anything that really stood out to me. West Virginia obviously being a Big 12 school, I saw a little bit of them. But yeah, I like Indiana to cruise to the supers with this. I think they go 2-0 and keep it pushing. That's my personal kind of opinion here. But yeah, that's about it. This like some of the other ones. This doesn't really feel like, yeah, it's not really a fun region at all. Like I think the other 3 teams it'll be fun watching in terms of like the games themselves, but I don't think that anyone actually is good enough to challenge Indiana enough to push them out of the super. So
there you go. Nick, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Ball State. What are you thinking?
Out of the supers, so they would get LSU in the super regional. So yeah, that's
Sam Houston in the super regions. Got it.
No, Sam Houston. No, stop with Sam Houston. No, I'm on the similar page here. I mean, this is another team where Kentucky was unranked, and due to their strength of schedule and their RPI, which they relied so heavily on.
Yeah, RPI was freaking
15-16 for teams to make it there. But yeah,
they were second in RPI.
They were second in RPI. Yeah, I was.
What are you celebrating?
Reds just scored again. I got Reds at 5. So
Reds got it. Okay, let's try to figure out what you're celebrating. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Indiana plus 120 against West Virginia and to win the regional. And then I think they get taken out by LSU. But this is a Kentucky team that they play a tough strength of the schedule. That's just about it. They were not anything special. They're just another SEC school. And West Virginia was a team that potentially was going to host a regional at one point, a couple weeks ago, and it's fallen off the face of the earth. A team that just is coming into this limping, no interest here. It'd be Indiana or nothing for me.
There you go. Yeah, we can move on from this ugly region. And we'll go to this one, which has should be more of a fun region. Although I don't really see many teams messing with Florida. Florida, UConn, Texas Tech, and FAMU, which should be fun. Florida 900, and then some ridiculous odds for the other ones. UConn was in conversations for a good chunk of the year to host regionals. I will throw that one out there. Texas Tech was a bubble team. Florida, 44-14 this year, 20-10 in conference, 30-6 at home, 11-7 on the road, 3-1 on the neutral site. And in their conference tournament, they beat Alabama, they beat Vanderbilt, and then lost to Vanderbilt, and that kind of knocked them out there. This is a strong Florida team. They won the SEC East, so don't obviously they're the number 2 seed in the nation. You can't sleep on them. UConn, we mentioned them a little bit. They finished 43-15, 15-5 in conference, 18-4 at home, 18-7 on the road, 7-4 on neutral. Wondering why they didn't cover? Why didn't they host? Because they lost the Big East championship to Xavier. If they would have won the Big East, probably could have hosted a regional. Didn't win it. That's why they dropped out. I already have UConn money line in their first matchup at I believe that's plus 115. Texas Tech is the team that they're going to go up against. 39-21 for Texas Tech, 12-12 in conference, 30-7 at home, 6-10 on the road, 3-4 on the neutral. Texas Tech, I think, had a little bit of a nice. They had a couple of games in that Big 12. They beat West Virginia, they beat Oklahoma, and then lost twice in a row to Oklahoma State, which kind of took them out of everything. They ended up being a bubble team, although their RPI was 41st, so they were one of the bubble teams that made it in. And then FAMU, let's give them their props, even though they went 29-28 this year. 18-20-12 in conference, 12-14 at home. 12-14 at home. Sheesh. 8-12 on the road, 9-2 on the neutral. Only reason why they made it in was because they won their conference, which was the SWAC. They beat Texas Southern. They lost to Alabama State. They beat Prairie View. They beat Alabama State twice, and then Bethune Cookman. Yay, Florida A&M. Good job. You guys are this is going to be the biggest blowout game of the first round when Florida absolutely spreads open their cheeks and gives them the business. I like UConn. I like UConn in the first game. This is a UConn spot against Texas Tech. Other than that, Florida should make it out of this region pretty swiftly. Nick, I'll let you go first with this one.
Yeah. By the way, Mom thinks your comment on Florida A&M is hilarious. By the way, no, cool. But I agree. This is one of those where I think Florida probably drops 20 runs on them in the first game, something along those lines. Like this could be a 23-5 type of game, and 5 may be generous to A&M. I'm looking more at a side in the 2-3 matchup more than anything, and I think Florida kind of cruises through this one, similar to LSU, similar to Wake Forest. I think Florida cruises. But I'm looking at Texas Tech in the first game against UConn. And I know you like your UConn, but I think that the fact that a 3 seed is a favorite over a 2 seed tells you a little bit something there. I'm going to be looking a little bit at Texas Tech, the minus 145, a little bit juicy, but I think they win that matchup against UConn in that first matchup. They're a bubble team. They could be one of those sneaky bubble teams, very similar to Ole Miss last year, that could make a little bit of a run. So if you want to take a long shot in this, I think Texas Tech is probably the way to go. But as for betting a team to win this region, I'm probably not going to. But I am going to look towards Texas Tech in the first game.
Brian, in this beautiful conference, beautiful regional, Florida, UConn, Texas Tech, and FAMU. Are we having any hope in FAMU?
No.
I'm
gonna lay out some things for you, and my trend in this regional overs. And here's why. Florida has like 5 people on their team that bat over 300. Their team batting average is like 298. They are the number 2 overall seed in the entire tournament. They're at home. They're going to go crazy. UConn also sucks. Absolutely sucks with pitching. They have like a team ERA over 4. That's like over 4.5. But they can hit the ball. Again, they can hit the ball. Texas Tech does not have good arms. It's just a lot. And Florida's pitching isn't like horrible. It's probably the best out of anyone here, but it's also not that great. I just see a lot of runs. You got Florida A&M that's going to get used as a punching bag twice. So teams are going to get runs off there. So overs are going to be the play for me. Obviously, I think Florida just cruises to the next round. But overs are going to be the play for this regional for me, just because of the sheer amount of offensive firepower between Florida, UConn, and Texas Tech, and the lack of pitching subsequently as well. So, that's what I've got going on with this. And we can talk Florida when they get to the next round and play a little bit more stiffer competition in terms of like money line values and stuff like that. But really, I'm just going to look at the overs, live betting overs if I can, and stuff like that.
I like who they're going to play in the next round too. I have a feeling it's going to be a fun matchup.
And we're gonna, Nick, you talk this one. We're gonna get into this one, which is going to take on the winner of most likely Florida, and this one might be one of the more fun regionals in terms of. I mean, I know I'm a North Carolina guy, and there's a bunch of North Carolina teams in this. South Carolina, Campbell, NC State, and Central Connecticut State, which we see the odds on Central Connecticut State. All right, cool. We're not really going to talk about them much. We'll talk about South Carolina first. They are the host here. Once again, another host that I don't think deserved it. They finished 39-19 this year, 16-13 in conference, 26-7 at home. Can't get there. There we go. 10-10 on the road, 3-2 on the neutral site. I think they completely bombed out of the SEC tournament. They lost to LSU and they beat Georgia, lost to LSU, lost to Texas A&M. And it wasn't really close. 10-3 against LSU, 5-0 against Texas A&M. This is a South Carolina team that did deal with injuries down the stretch. I will give them that. But this is a team that's kind of start off fantastic. There were times in the year that we thought they were going to be the number 1 team in the nation. I don't think they finished the year ranked. Or if they did, it was bottom of the barrel ranked. I don't think they deserved it. They are not going to lose to Central Connecticut State, though. They went 36-12 this year. Solid, but 25-5 in conference. You'll understand why. 15-6 at home, 15-4 on the road, 6-2 on the neutral site. They played in a bad conference. It had Sacred Heart, Wagner. They lost to Wagner too. Sacred Heart, and they beat Wagner twice in a row. This is not a good Central Connecticut team. Well, they're good for their region. They're not a good team overall. We're not going to really dig into them deep. The matchup I'm most excited about in this one is going to be the NC State Campbell matchup to start off. We'll start with NC State, which is a bubble team that actually was on the right side of the bubble last year. They were one of the biggest gyps last year. They were 35-19 this year, 13-16 in conference, 26-7 at home, 7-11 on the road, 2-1 on the neutral site. They had no, they didn't have an okay. They had a bad ACC tournament They won against Duke. They lost against Miami, and that was it. So a rough conference tournament for them. I will be on the Camels. This is a Campbell team that, as we mentioned in RPIs, we look at the teams that top 16 RPI teams. Actually, they had top 16 RPI teams. The only one that was technically Dallas Baptist was 16th in the RPIs too. So they were another one. But Campbell was number 13 in the RPIs, and they didn't host. This is going to be a pissed off Campbell's team. And boy, is this if this Campbell team is not hosting a regional, Campbell may never host a regional. This team was awesome. 44-13 this year. They led the country in scoring. In runs per game, they were the highest scoring team in the nation. 22-5 in conference, 20-4 at home, 20-9 on the road, 4-0 neutral site. They had really good wins. They took care of teams like ULL. They swept East Carolina this year. And that's not an easy feat. They won their conference tournament. Wasn't really difficult. They faced Gardner-Webb and then Upstate twice. But this is a very good Camels team. And that's going to be the team I take out of this region. And we mentioned going up against Florida. I'm going to have Campbell going to Omaha. I think they're that good of a team. I think they're going to be a pissed off team that they did not get a regional. Campbell is one of my dark horses to run to make it all the way. Although if they make Omaha, they might have to face off against my Pirates. But I think Campbell is going to be a very dominant team in this tournament. And I think they're going to put South Carolina in their place. So Campbell, for me, I already have them minus 135 on the money line versus NC State. I will grab them versus South Carolina plus money, no problem. I like them to win out this tournament, this conference outright, or regional outright. Nick, I know you love this conference too. I'll let you talk about it first and then let Brian break it down.
Oh, yeah. They've learned about the Camels, and so have the betting markets too. This line opened up, I believe, a minus 130 for Campbell. We're now looking at run line territory now with the Campbells being minus 155. You can also take Campbell in the over against NC State. I don't hate that at all. I am going to be heavily invested in the Fighting Camels during this tournament as a whole. I like them to win this. I like them to beat NC State. I like them to beat South Carolina. I like them to beat Florida. They're going to be one of my four teams. I think I'm going to bet win the whole goddamn thing. And they're currently 60-1 to win the College World Series. I think they can make a run very similar to Coastal Carolina a few years ago, that they ran it out as a 2 or 3 seed throughout the entire thing. I think this Campbell's team has the offense to compete, and that's why I kind of like the over against NC State as well. They're going to score runs, and I think they are the best team in this region as a 2 seed. And we get a pissed off Camels team for being the only team in the top 16 RPI to be excluded from hosting. If you're going to rely so heavily on the RPI to give Kentucky and South Carolina a regional, give one to Campbell. This should have been the Lillington regional, not the South Carolina regional. That's beyond the point, though. Give me the Camels. I'm going to be very heavily invested in those Fighting Camels this entire tournament.
Brian, are you sharing the same love for Campbell as us?
I am actually.
Good. Okay.
I like Campbell to win the region. I like Campbell in this game against NC State.
Yep.
As Nick said, Campbell and the over is the play for me. NC State has had a lot of defensive issues from the SEC games I've watched this year. And Campbell is a terror on the base pass. They had over 100 stolen bases. It was like top 10 nationally. If you stole 100 bases in the regular season, what's going to stop you from deviating that now? Like, if that's how you got here and that's how you created offense for yourself, they're going to keep doing it. And I think
not to mention getting hit by the pitch.
They are the king of getting hit by the pitch.
Exactly. So you get that going. It's a tournament setting, so you don't have the luxury of saying, well, we play 2 more games the rest of this, this weekend with them. Things can compound quick for NC State, and I think that's what happens in that matchup. As Nick said, I'm looking at my book right now, and it's got them at minus 160. Campbell on
I
the
got
money line.
135.
Yeah. So it's clear they know something. They know what's up here. I'm gonna hop on. I'm gonna go run line as well when that drops. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Campbell is a play here. I think if you're gonna pick another team to come out, it's gonna be South Carolina just because of the factor of where they, the conference that they played in. I don't think it's a typical or what we've become accustomed to with NC State. I still think they probably have another year or so seasoning. But for me, I think it's just Campbell this year. Like you said, they have the motivational factor. They have the offense. They have the clear-cut best offense in this entire region as well. Everything's just kind of
they have the best offense in the nation.
Exactly.
They had the best offense in the nation. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so like they have so many advantages here. They have like I said, they have the motivational aspect. They have the fact that they've produced already this year. I'm gonna run with Campbell and just keep it pushing.
I like it.
NC State should be happy they actually made it this year.
Yes, they should.
Yeah, probably, yes.
All right, Nick. Here's the regional that we're gonna have our fun with. This is the Charlottesville regional with Virginia, the East Carolina Pirates, some Sooner team, and Army. By the way, hotel is booked, tickets are bought. We're going to this regional. Anyways, Virginia, ECU, Oklahoma, and Army. Virginia this year, 45-12. They were the number 7 team in the nation. 19-11 in conference. 32-4 at home. That is scary. 11-7 on the road. 2-1 on the neutral. I don't think they did well in their conference tournament though. And I believe I would be right. Let's pull this up. They won against Georgia Tech and then got stomped by the Tar Heels 10-2. So they're coming off of one loss, but this is still a very, very good Virginia team who is one of the best in terms of hitting. I believe they had the 5th highest slugging percentage this year in college baseball. Really solid team. My Pirates, 45-17 this year, 18-6 in conference, 29-5 at home, 12-9 on the road, 4-3 on the neutral site. We saw what happened in the American Conference tournament. They lost to South Florida in the first game, and then they came back and from the losers bracket beat Cincinnati, UCF, South Florida twice, and then at that point they were absolutely taxed and lost to Tulane. Still a very solid ball club. I'm expecting to see Josh Groves start or Carter Spivey, start this game. Try to save your Savage if we get to play against Virginia. But we'll see how they decide to work that one because they're not going up against any slacker. They're going up against the team that lost in the College World Series last year, and that is Oklahoma. They were a bubble team this year, and they barely made it in. 31-26, 11-13 in conference, 15-12 at home, 13-10 on the road, 3-4 on the neutral site. In their conference tournament, they won against Oklahoma State and then bombed. They lost to Texas Tech. They lost to Oklahoma State, and that was the end of their tournament for them. One of the bubble teams, they got lucky to get in. But don't take that for granted. We saw what Ole Miss did last year as a bubble team. So very solid club. I'm already on ECU minus 130. This will be the only game I'm not at in the regional because I'm going out Saturday. So unfortunately, I don't get to see this game, but it is what it is.
I will.
And then Army is the last team that's in it. 38-16, 21-4 in conference, 18-4 at home, 17-10 on the road, 3-2 on the neutral site. And the only reason why they made it in was because they won the Patriot League. They lost their first game to Lafayette and then proceeded to win 2 games against Lafayette and sweep Bucknell in order to get in. I don't expect Army to do anything in this tournament. I expect them to be punching bags for Virginia and hopefully Oklahoma, and then go home. I would be lying if I said I wasn't going to take East Carolina to win the region, or East Carolina to. I have East Carolina to win it all. So this is I'm a homer in this one. I'll admit I'm a homer in this one. But we've seen Virginia play against ECU in 2 regionals in the last what was it 2019 and last year, and ECU won both of those regionals. One of them was in Greenville, the other one was in Virginia, and they won both of them. So I think ECU can make it a 3 in a row and win this regional as well. Do not sleep on Oklahoma though. Brian, I'll let you go first with your Oklahoma bias. Let's hear it.
I don't inherently believe that Oklahoma wins this region, obviously. I will say this game is going to be very interesting, largely because you've got ECU that is coming in angry. They lost to Tulane, messed up the chance to get a regional.
Yep.
They are probably the most complete team in the region. But there's something to be said about Oklahoma doing what they did last year, and the fact that they lost, so many pieces to that team last year, and they found their way in. I remember watching the selection, and they were the second to last team put into the round into all the teams. They were the second to last team that made the cut before they even started doing seeding and so on and so forth like that. So they literally just made the cut. And that was mostly a product of their strength of schedule. It was significantly higher than like Kansas State, a couple other bubble teams as well. So I think Oklahoma can make a game of it. I think ECU just has too deep of a lineup. And Oklahoma's starting pitching has been very spotty this year at best. And I don't see them being able to pull it out. And I think a lot of the times is in these regions, you have to get off to a good start. It's imperative, especially as the lower seed. You have to sneak attack someone. Oklahoma did it last year with Florida. They jumped on Florida. They beat them in the first game, and Florida was kind of reeling. And they ended up, Oklahoma ended up winning that Gainesville regional because of it. But you have when teams like when you're the second, third, or fourth team in these regions, you got to come out there and just jump on your opponent, send a message. And so I don't see it happening. I think it's gonna be an interesting game. But I do think ECU wins the region. If I had to pick someone to kind of dethrone them, I guess, quote unquote, I'd have to say it's Virginia. Just because they played in a much better all around conference, I think, than the Big 12 this year in the ACC. So, but yeah, it's ECU or bust for me if you're picking region winners here. So
what you're saying, Brian, is anyways, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the team I know the best, obviously, East Carolina. Of course, I'm picking them to win their first game matchup, day one. I will be there in person. Tickets booked, hotel booked. I'll be there game one, Friday at 7:00. And I think ECU is very capable of winning the regional in this one here. I think that if they won their conference, they could have had a chance to host their own regional. Instead, they got stuck with the number 7 team nationally in the world in the nation. With that being said, I really like the depth of this East Carolina team. We saw one thing that they have this year that didn't have last year is consistent starting pitching, because they have arguably a top 5 starter in the nation in Trey Savage, who is probably getting saved for Virginia. They'll probably go Josh Groves game one with Carter Spivey in relief, maybe.
Okay.
And then potentially you have Zach Root as well if you need him there, if you have to play Army or something like that. And they have decent bullpen arms. I mean, Shankman has come out of his bullpen, looked really good. Danny Beal has come out really good.
Danny Beal.
Richie. I mean, there's some few really good pitchers that have come out of this bullpen this year. And then the offense from top to bottom, they're just pests. There's not that one star on East Carolina. Yeah, there's Josh Moylan, who is the power hitter on this lineup. But this is a team that slaps the ball around, steals bases, and it's just a pest to play against. I mean, Lane Hoover, he's somebody who steals a lot of bases. Carter Cunningham was a first-team All-AAC. And this is a ECU team that just has depth. when one of your top prospects is a backup catcher. I think that tells you a little bit. It's just what fits in this system. I love the way Will Coxon's played this year. And I just like this team. I mean, JJC in the middle of that lineup definitely can give you some nice pop. This is an overall very good ECU team that I think can very well make it out of this regional. So that's kind of where I'm looking here is ECU as the 2 seed.
I think the success of East Carolina will be on the bat of Jacob Starling. There you go. But that's our homer region. We'll go over to this one, which I know Bryant has a little bit of homer in this one too. That's fine. I know you're a Dookie. Don't even. Coastal, Duke, UNCW, and Rider. And this one's gonna be fun, and I might have a little bit of an upset for this one. Coastal this year did not win their conference. They finished 39-19, 23-7 in conference, 23-10 at home, 14-7 on the road, 2-2 on the neutral site. They played in the Sun Belt, and I believe they beat Georgia State, whatever. They played UL Lafayette, won that first game, lost the next 2 against them. So it was kind of a rough route for them in the conference tournament. They didn't really get much done there. But this is still a very, very solid team. Do not get me wrong. They'll be going up against Rider, who went 35-19, 14-7 conference record, 10-5 home record, 21-13 away record, and a 4-1 neutral. Rider was in the MAC, the AAC tournament. They beat Quinnipiac, they beat Fairfield, lost to Fairfield, and beat Fairfield. So that's what they had to go up against for it. I don't expect Rider to do anything against Coastal or Duke, but we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about the Duke Blue Devils, and that's going to get through 2-0 Mets. Awesome. Sorry. Bye, Bryant. Duke, good. I was just about to shit on Duke. Duke went 35-21 this year, 16-13 in conference. They lost their last 4 games. 24-12 at home, 10-7 on the road, 1-2 on the neutral site. They completely bombed out of the ACC tournament, losing to NC State and Miami. And I will say I already have a bet against them in the first round when I'm taking UNCW plus 145. UNCW this year, 34-21. They went 20-8 in conference, 6-game winning streak to end the year, 20-11 home streak, 12-10 road streak, 2-0 on the neutral. And they won their conference. So that's good to see for them. They beat Delaware, they beat Northeastern twice. So I like UNCW in the first round. And when it comes to Carolina teams, I wouldn't be surprised if UNCW made it out of this region. I wouldn't be surprised if Duke made it out of the region. I wouldn't be surprised if Coastal made it out of the region. Obviously, Rider's not. I'm going to go and take some plus money with UNCW. I think they're the ones that get out of the region. I'll take them a little bit of plus money. I'm going to have them in the first game, and I'll have them against Coastal if they make it there. They had 2 wins against East Carolina this year. They played Campbell. No, they got crushed by Campbell. Those are actually their only big wins was against ECU. But I'm going to go with UNCW as a little bit of a dark horse in this one. Nick, I'll let you go, and maybe we might get Brian back so we could shit on his Blue Devils more.
Well, you can, and give me Duke to win this regional. I think it tells you something that Duke is the favorite or has the best odds out of the region to win the whole thing. And it makes sense. Duke played in the ACC this year. They played with a much tougher strength of schedule than Coastal and UNCW. UNCW didn't really play anybody other than East Carolina this year, which I'm looking at Duke run line in the first game, honestly. I think Duke kind of takes care of business there, and Coastal and Duke's going to be a fun battle back and forth. But I think at the end of the day, we might get an ECU Duke matchup here in the Super Regionals in Greenville. So I like Duke to win this region. I think they've had the tougher strength of schedule. Coastal's been good this year, but I think Duke potentially can upset.
Hey, we got you back. Oh, did we?
You click it. My bad. I tried clicking it. You click it.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, I can't see you guys for whatever reason, but it's no big deal.
That's fine. We could see you. You're good. Coastal,
all right.
Duke, UNCW, Ryder. What are you thinking, Mr. Dukey?
So this region is hilarious to me because one, I'm a Duke fan, but obviously, being someone that spent half of my life in North Carolina and grew up there and went to college there, I actually was going to go to both of those schools. Like those are two of the schools that are on my list out of high school. So it's kind of a funny region to me. But yeah, I'm who I'm rocking with, man. Let's be real here. I like Duke to get out of here. I think that Coastal can make some noise. But I ultimately don't really see them. I don't really see them lasting if it comes down to a possible winner take all kind of game. But it's Duke for me. I just think they're a combination of offense. They got some guys that bullpen can pitch. I'm gonna rock out with the Blue Devils, and let's get on to the next round.
Yeah, I will say I'm a little bit surprised that Duke got put in Coastals, because for a while after everything happened on Sunday, we were looking at it. Everybody had this Coastal region as Coastal, ECU, UNCW, and then pick a 4 seed.
I thought it was
I'm actually surprised that Duke got selected into that one, but should definitely be a fun one. I would pick either Duke or UNCW. I'm going to take a little bit more plus money with UNCW. I already have Wilmington to beat Duke in the first game, and that was plus 145. So I took a shot with them. But that is that one. We got 4 more conferences or 4 more regionals to go. And you mentioned that you thought the Florida region, not Florida, the LSU region was the softest. Yeah, I think this one's the softest.
Yes.
And I think Vanderbilt got a nice, easy thing. Vanderbilt, Oregon, Xavier, and Eastern Illinois. Now, I will say, shout out to Mel. I threw $3.50 at EIU money line against Vanderbilt.
You said it wrong. It's EIU.
Oh, yeah, EIU. Because she wanted to have a bet on it, but she can't bet on Illinois schools. So I did it for her. But we get Vandy, the SEC champs, coming into this one. 41-18, 19-11 in conference, 25-6 at home, 8-9 on the road, 8-3 on the neutral. They walked through that conference tournament. They had one little hiccup. Other than that, they were solid, beating Auburn, lost to Florida, beat Alabama, Florida, and then A&M in the finals. So this is a Vanderbilt team that is on a roll right now. It's going to be tough for them to – I don't see them losing in this one. We look at EIU, and they went 38-19 this year. They went 13-11 in conference. They won 3 straight games to end the year. Those are in this conference tournament. 7-4 at home. 11 home games? Are you kidding me? 26-14 on the road, 5-1 on neutrals. In their tournament in the Ohio Valley, they won against Southern Indiana. They won against SEMO, lost to Moorhead. They came back, won against Texas Tech, Little Rock, and Moorhead again. This is a EIU team that I'm not okay. I don't think they win. But I think they can make it a little bit fun. The other matchup is the one I'm going to be a little bit. I actually didn't have anything in this one. Oregon and Xavier. Xavier won the Big East. That's the only reason why they were able to get into the tournament. They went 37-23 this year, 14-7 in the conference, 11-9 at home, 23-13 on the road, which is going to come in nicely. 3-1 on the neutral site, and we see what they did in the Big East tournament, a win against Seton Hall, and they took 2 out of 3 against UConn, which is no easy feat. So good job to them there. I think Xavier probably beats Oregon in the first game, but it's going to be very difficult for anybody to beat Vandy in this one. Real quick, Oregon 37-20, 16-14 in conference, 23-13 at home, 10-7 on the road, 4-0 on the neutral. Oregon State are Pac-12 champions. That's why they were able to make it into this tournament. Cal, Stanford, Washington, Arizona, all wins in the Pac-12. So only one big Pac-12 win, and that's Stanford. I don't see anybody teaching Vanderbilt in this game, though. So this one ends up being I'm laying off. I'll probably have Xavier somehow in the first game. I'll have the over in the Vanderbilt game. I have $3.50 on Eastern Illinois from Mel, but I'm not really going crazy with this one. Nick, I'll let you go first with this one.
You hear it? It's Mr. Softy, what the Vanderbilt Commodores were given in this regional. This is probably one of the easiest regionals that I'm seeing. That being said, probably Oregon makes it out now. Xavier. I'm actually leaning towards Oregon in the first game. Maybe I'm a little bit chalky with that one there, but I kind of think that they can roll over the momentum from winning the Pac-12 tournament into potentially winning game one against Xavier, and maybe they're the team that gives Vandy a scare. But I have Vandy as a team I had circled to win the whole goddamn thing. They're one of the 4 teams I have circled, and I think we've gone all over all of them right now. Clemson, ECU, Campbell, and Vandy. Those are my 4 teams that I think that I'm going to take some futures on to win the whole thing. I think this Vanderbilt team is deep. They won the SEC, which the SEC, as much as we like to shit on it, the fancy SEC, they're still the best conference in college baseball.
Yes.
And winning that conference is no freaking joke. So yeah, I'm gonna probably grab Vandy to win the whole thing. At 12-1, but at this point, probably no value on them to win the regional. Maybe you can grab them with LSU and Wake or something like that and throw it a little bit time together. But other than that, I think Vandy is just a force to be reckoned with here, and they were given the regional to do it.
Brian, does anybody have a chance to beat Vanderbilt in this one?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it.
No.
I am just not seeing it at all. I think Vanderbilt wins this running away. I think they win both games by like 6 or 7 runs, and just punch your ticket. That's just kind of how I see this going. I think Oregon, if anyone, just like you said, they won the Pac-12 tournament. Maybe kind of steam in there and spring an upset and make them sweat a little bit. But ultimately, I think when it gets down to it, Vanderbilt comes out on top and gets out of this region unscathed. So
yeah, this one was probably one of the most easiest regions.
Yeah, it's really you're like you be reaching trying to like figure out some like secret value somewhere with any of the other teams. I think
you be reaching on Oregon.
There's other value in other regionals. This is not.
Yeah, absolutely. Where it's like actually has like there's some merit to it as opposed to this
like this one, like this regional. I think there's some merit in this one.
Yes.
Let's go to the Oklahoma State, the Stillwater Regional. Oklahoma State, Dallas Baptist, Washington, and Earle Bob. And we'll go ahead and jump into those teams. Oklahoma State, number 1 in the region, 41-18 this year, 15-9 in conference, 25-7 at home, 11-7 on the road, 5-4 on the neutral site in their conference tournament in the Big 12. A loss to Oklahoma, and then they came back and won against West Virginia, beat Oklahoma, beat Texas Tech twice, lost in the Big 12 finals to TCU, which that game meant absolutely nothing because the host regionals were announced mid-game. So that meant absolutely nothing. This is an Oregon State team that's going to be Oklahoma State team that's going to be strong, but I got a little bit of an upset because they will be going up against the team with the second most wins in college baseball this year, and that was 46-11 Oral Roberts out of the Summit. How about a 23-1 conference record? They've won their last 18 games, 23-4 at home, 18-6 on the road, 5-1 on the neutral site. This is and you look at the conference tournament, 9-2 versus Omaha, 15-2 against South Dakota State, 12-4 versus South Dakota State. None of these teams' games were close. They blew out everybody. This is an Oral Roberts team that's hot right now, and they're one of the 3-4 seeds that I picked to win a game. Them, Tulane, and we'll talk about the other one in the last conference the regional that we'll talk about. But watch out for Oral Roberts. They could definitely make an impact. Washington 34-18 this year out of the Pac-12, 17-12 there, 17-8 at home, 16-8 on the road, and 1-2 on the neutral. In the Pac-12 tournament, they lost to UCLA in a run rule, ugly game. They won against USC and then lost to Oregon and got knocked out. I'm not high on this Washington team at all. And in fact, I already have their opponent bet in the next game, which is Dallas Baptist, which I have to win the region. 45-14 this year, 25-5 in conference, 26-5 at home, 15-8 on the road, 4-1 on the neutral site. And when it comes to DalBap, you look at their tournament, a win against Rice, 2 wins against Western Kentucky, and they lost the championship game to Charlotte. That's the only reason why they're not hosting a regional right now, is because they lost to Charlotte in that final. That's the reason Charlotte made it in general. I like DalBap to make it out of this regional. I think that I don't know if DalBap can necessarily put up a fight against Vanderbilt in the supers, but I do like DalBap to get the job done here in this conference. And you already know I grabbed Oral Bob plus 165 versus Oklahoma State. A little bit of a 4-1 upset in the first game. Brian, I'll let you go first on this one. Oklahoma State, DalBap, Washington, and Oral Roberts. Go ahead.
I will not be betting Oklahoma State. I'm firmly on the Dallas Baptist. I'm firmly on the Dallas Baptist train, though. My buddy Jay works for him. Good guy. I've actually went to a couple of their games, being their local team as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Dallas Baptist to get out of here. They've been one of those dark horse programs that have consistently made it to the NCAA tournament. They can make a little noise. But yeah, I like Dallas Baptist here. I think Oral Roberts is a little bit in over the heads. Obviously, they were the clear-cut best team in their conference, but it's different when you got to go and do this against Oklahoma State and Dallas Baptist, a Pac-12 school in Washington and stuff like that. I feel like if they're going to get anyone, it's going to be Washington. We'll see how that goes. But I don't see it being can you get down, sweetheart? I don't see anyone scaring. I don't see anyone beating Dallas Baptist 2 times. So I'm going to rock out with Dallas Baptist to get out this region. If anyone else does it, it's going to be Oklahoma State. They have the offense. That offense is enough to kind of push it into the supers. But ultimately, I'm just going to rock out with Dallas Baptist. So,
Nick, Oklahoma State region with DalBap, Washington, and Oral Bob.
Yeah, this is another one I had no interest in the 3 or the 4 seeds. I really don't have too much interest in any of these 3 or 4 seeds.
4 seed.
No, I mean, I told you in the beginning of this stream, I'm going to be doing something because it would have hit last year if I would have done it. I'm going to try it this year. I'm putting $5 down on every money line of the 1 seeds. It went 16-0 last year. It went 15-1 the year before that. These 1 seeds take care of business. I'm not trying to do that. And I'll take Oklahoma State run line in the first game against Oral Bob. I'm sorry, Tim. But that being said, I think Dallas Baptist is the only way to go for regional value-wise, because you'll probably have to lay a little bit of a price with Okie State. Okie State probably makes it out of the region, but value-wise, I think it's only Dallas Baptist for me. It's another one of those 2 seats I like. So I'll take probably a little bit of DalBap. I'm going to grab them minus 135 first game against Washington. I notice I'm going after a lot of favorites. I'm being a little chalky, but in the first round, I kind of feel like that's the way it goes sometimes. So I'm going to be on DalBap for the first game, and I'm probably going to take some DalBap to win the region.
Fair enough. We got 2 more regionals to talk about. This one's the Arkansas one. I forgot to pull up all the freaking pages for these teams. Well, no, I pulled them up. I need to move them over to my side screen because we get Arkansas, TCU, Arizona, and Santa Clara. So got them all up here. Perfect. Put them over here. Arkansas was a very, very good team this year. Number 3 team in the nation. 41-16 record. 20-10 in conference. 30-4 at home. 7-9 on the road. 4-3 on neutral. They shared the SEC title with Florida. They were the SEC West champions this year. I don't believe they had a good conference tournament though. They did all right. A win against Texas A&M, a win against LSU, and then a loss to Texas A&M, and that was the end of their tournament. This is a Arkansas team that's really, really solid. Obviously, plus 1,000. They're one of the favorites to win this entire thing. So really solid team. They're going to go up against Santa Clara, 35-18 this year, 17-10 conference record, 18-8 at home, 13-10 on the road, 4-0 on the neutral site. In their conference tournament, they went up against Portland, St. Mary's, and Portland. Took care of business in all 3 of those games. Santa Clara, clearly the best team in that conference. They're not going to compete against against Arkansas though. The other matchup is going to be fun. TCU and Arizona. We'll talk about Arizona first. They went 33-24. They were an at-large bid, even though they went 12-18 in their conference. 23-8 at home, 4-14 on the road, 6-2 on the neutral site. And in their conference, here's why they made it. 12-3 win against Arizona State, a win against Oregon State, who is in the tournament, and a 14-4 run rule game against Stanford. And then they lost to Oregon in the finals. This is an Arizona team that I think has caught fire at the right time. They're looking a little bit better. I will have them. I have them plus 100 against TCU to start it off. TCU this year, they went 37-22, 13-11 in conference. They won 6 straight games to end the year. 22-11 home record. 8-9 on the road. 7-2 on the neutral site. In their tournament, they went up against Kansas State, Kansas State, and Oklahoma, and they won all those games. They were the Big 12 champions this year. But I'm going to go ahead and grab Arizona money line in that first matchup. I will have the over in every single 1-4 matchup. I think Arkansas makes it out of this region, though. I don't really see anybody really competing with the Razorbacks until they reach super regionals, and then I have a team that I think will give them a run for their money. But for this one, it's Arizona in the first game. And other than that, I think Arkansas wins the region. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a difficult one for me. I mean, I think Arkansas probably makes it out of the regional. I don't think that's saying too much, though. They're one of the better teams in the nation. Arizona had a sub 500 record, which maybe their little Cinderella story. Everybody will be overlooking them, especially at a pick'em price here against TCU, who just won the Big 12. So I think there is some merit in taking Arizona in game 1 against TCU. Maybe they're one of those 3 seeds that can make a little bit of a run. I'll probably look towards Arizona. Game 1 is probably the only way I'll approach this. Arkansas will be on my 1 seed money lines, and that'll be it. I don't have really too much for this one.
That's cool. You don't need to jump in deep into them. Brian, Arkansas region. Anything crazy going to happen in this one? I swear, every single time.
I think it's a pretty good regional for entertainment value. I just see Arkansas coming out on top. They've won the last 3 regionals at their home stadium. I don't really see that stopping now.
They got a good region to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I will say this. I like Arizona over TCU.
Yep.
I do like that pick. So I'll be on that. But ultimately, I think Arkansas takes care of business. I'm going to be looking to hit Arkansas and combine that with whatever overs we get in their couple of games. But yeah, it's nothing too spicy. I think a lot of this tournament is gonna turn up a notch once we get to these supers. just the way kind of things seem like they're trending with a lot of these regions so far. So yeah.
That works. Which will bring us to the last region, which I know me and Nick are going to have a little bit of arguments with. That one is and Brian's not. Yeah, Brian won't like my pick either. Indiana State, Iowa, UNC, and Wright State will be your regional. And I think UNC got a really, really favorable regional, but we'll talk about it in a minute. Indiana State this year, solid squad. 41-15 this year, 24-3 in conference, 19-4 at home, 21-7 on the road, and 2-4 on the neutral site. Keep in mind they did play in the Missouri Valley Conference. In their tournament, they won against the University of Illinois Chicago. They won against Belmont, and then they took 2 out of 3 from Evansville. So I'm not necessarily sold on this team. I'm happy that a small school like this got to host a regional. Honestly, I figured Campbell should be in this spot instead of Indiana State, but that's just me. I'm not super high on them, and which will explain I'm on Wright State in the first matchup. For the 4-1 upset, this is the third 4-1 upset. You get Wright State coming into this one 39-21, 22-8 in conference, 24-4 at home, 14-16 on the road, 1-1 on the neutral site. In their conference tournament, they had a win against Milwaukee. They lost to Oakland, and then rattle off wins against Milwaukee, Oakland, and Oakland. So they kind of played the same 2 teams, but it is what it is. I like Wright State to win against Indiana State in the first game. I saw the line, Indiana State's a -190 against the number 4 seed. I thought that was just way too low. That's the only reason why I bet it. That and same deal with Oral Roberts. But the other 2 teams, Iowa, one of your Big Ten at-large bids. They went 42-14 this year. Solid squad. 15-8 in conference, 22-3 at home, 9-9 on the road, 10-2 on the neutral site. And in the Big Ten tournament, they won against Michigan, Indiana, Michigan, and then lost to Maryland in the finals. And then they're going to go up against UNC. UNC went 35-22 this year, 14-14 in conference, 24-12 at home, 9-8 on the road, 2-2 on the neutral. I think this is a very, very favorable regional for the Tar Heels. I am not high on Big Ten baseball. I think all of them get knocked out in the first round. I have UNC already -110 in the first game. I have Wright State in the first game. And with Wright State winning, I think it's going to open up a good chance for UNC to kind of roll through this regional. Indiana State was a great story, but I think the Tar Heels are just going to be able to overpower them. I think they were one of the more luckier roles in terms of regionals. I'll take the UNC Tar Heels to make it out. Brian, I know you love the Tar Heels, so I'll let you talk about them first.
He's muted again.
It just never fails. I do not love the Tar Heels, but when it comes to money, money's money. I'll if I have to bet against one of my teams, I'll do it. If I have to pick a rival team, I'll do it. I do it a lot this year, and I lost a lot of money on the. I'm not going to mention their name, but you know who I'm talking about. But I like North Carolina to get out this region. I just think that they're simply they're the best team here. I don't really see it. I don't see it with Iowa. I share your same thoughts on Big Ten baseball. I don't really respect it. If it's not basketball, football, or wrestling, the Big Ten doesn't really do anything for me. And so, I'm going with North Carolina. And we'll see. This feels like one of those picks where I'm gonna pick it and just let it see where it goes. I don't really think it's gonna mess up, but I don't have any faith in Indiana State. I don't have any faith in Iowa, and Wright State is just there for the vibes. So it's Carolina or bust, really.
All right, Nick. Why am I wrong?
I kind of like the top 2 seeds in this region.
This is insane.
And
Insane.
the fact that and one thing that we have to keep in mind is, I mean, North Carolina has to travel up to Indiana State, which that's not a fun draw for you. I know you get to play probably the easiest team in the of the host regions, but I mean, Indiana State can still hold their own. I think that Indiana State's worth a look to win this region because you're going to get plus money on a team hosting a regional. And Indiana State, I think the Sycamores are worth a look. I like Iowa in the first game. The fact that the Lions already moved from -120 to -130 on Iowa tells me that that they're live in this game, and I think everybody's going to look at a household name in North Carolina, and that's probably why the odds are the way they are. Is because they're North Carolina and they have pedigree and they have the history and all that. I think Iowa's live to knock off North Carolina in this spot. And I think Indiana State can win this region. So I'm looking at either Iowa or Indiana State at nice plus money. You can probably bet both of them as long as North Carolina doesn't win the region. You might make money. But yeah, I'm looking at Iowa and Indiana State. I'm not looking at the pansy blue team from North Carolina.
My one problem with Indiana State, look at their record against teams that are in the tournament. They played Iowa first game of the year. They lost. They played Miami. They lost. They played Northeastern for 3 games. They got swept. And the Mets turn a double play and the game's over. Good. They played Kentucky. They got swept. They played Indiana, lost 15-5. They played Indiana. They won. Okay, they won a game against Indiana. And you know what? I'll give them one really, really good win this year. They had a 10-2 win against Vanderbilt. That was it. They won 2 games out of the how many that they played against teams in the tournament. I don't see them doing anything. So I like UNC. But we made it. Almost 2 hours for the show. I am just super pumped. I've been waiting for this since last year. This is my favorite college tournament to watch. And it's not particularly close. I like this one over the March Madness NBA March Madness basketball bracket. Sue me. I love my baseball. But before we leave, let's give a bias of what we hope to happen in terms of the finals, and then let's give a realistic one. So I'll go first. I think Clemson makes the tour. I think Clemson makes the finals in Omaha. And in my realistic one, I think they go up against Campbell. I know that might not seem realistic, and I have Clemson winning it all. Now, in my what I hope to happen bracket, I hope ECU beats Clemson. I have Clemson going regardless. I think they're the best team on that side, but and that's even with who do you call it? Wake Forest on that side, but Clemson is going to be the team that I'm going to take to win it all. Nick, who's winning it all?
My bias one, East Carolina wins it all. UNC's done in 2 games. Duke is done in 2 games, and so is NC State.
No.
Okay, there's my bias. I hope I know, but realistically, my champion at the end of it is going to be the Commodores. I'm going to look at Vanderbilt to win the whole thing, and they're probably going to go up against Wake.
All right, Brian. Let's get a biased pick and then a realistic pick.
Neither one of my bias picks is really actually still like it's not even realistic in that regard. I think my bias pick would be Duke getting to the super regionals.
Okay.
I don't think that's biased at all. I like Duke.
Yeah. So I think Duke getting to the super regionals, at least forcing like a game 3 of that super regionals, I think that's probably like the most biased thing I'll say. My non-bias is I love LSU's team. I really like watching Dylan Cruz play, Paul Skeens. And I think that we get a LSU. I think we get LSU in the chip, and they go ahead and bring it home. If not LSU, I will give my secondary pick of Wake Forest. I know it's very chalky, but I just think those arms that they have, man, it'll carry them a long way. Vanderbilt a couple years ago with Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, they let that take them all the way to the championship series. They unfortunately ended up
Remember
losing.
that they swept East Carolina in the Super.
Yeah, and then they ended up losing to Mississippi State. But I think that just that collection of like arm talent, it'll carry you a long ways in here. So I think that's what ultimately could happen as well. So that's my non-bias and then my bias picks right there. So
there you go. Bryant, we appreciate you hopping on and talking some college baseball. I'm super pumped. I'm going to be at the Saturday-Sunday game for the Virginia Regional. Nick's going down the day early. I have to work on Saturday morning, so unfortunately I can't go out early. I wish I could call out. I might call out on Monday if it goes next game. That's not the point. Anyways, so I'm super pumped for that. And I'm really hoping that we get a super regional in Greenville. But that's going to do it for the college baseball regionals breakdown. We might do another show for supers, and then Omaha. We will 100% have a show for Omaha. Super excited. All the plays down below. ULL, Wright State, Dalbap, Arizona, Sam Houston, ECU, UNC, Indiana, Tulane, Troy, UNCW, Northeastern, Campbell, UConn, and Oral Roberts. Those are my first round picks. I have all of them bet at the moment. So make sure you guys check out all if you guys are interested in my plays. They're all posted up on my Twitter as well. That's going to do it. Good luck, guys, in some college baseball, and we'll see you guys for the Earle Sports Bet Show tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Good luck, guys.